What's going on, everyone? So, Scream 7 is rumored, again, take all that stuff with a grain of salt, but Scream 7 is rumored to be bringing back Kirby Reed and establishing her and her character further to set up a potential spin-off series, which, based on her character and what we got in Scream 6, makes a lot of sense, right? She is this ghost hunter, or not ghost hunter, but Ghostface hunter, Ghostface hunter, detective, FBI agent that basically tracks down and hunts Ghostface, basically turning the power and shifting the victimness into her control, right? She's the one tracking and hunting Ghostface rather than the other way around, where Ghostface hunting and tracking her. So you could have this kind of interesting serial killer buddy cop type series, and Scream 7 is supposed to kind of establish that. But one of the things that I want to discuss, and of course I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments below, but is the potential of Kirby Reed being the cause for Ghostface to go after Sidney. And I have this little idea, so here, take my hand, let's walk. So Kirby Reed being an FBI agent, she's going to have information and details, and I'm sure she's kind of keeping an eye and has tabs on Sidney Prescott. I mean, she had files and stuff like that on Sam and stuff, right? You got to imagine, especially if she is tracking and actively involved in taking on Ghostface, and Sidney Prescott is basically the Ghostface mascot, right? Like, that's the one that Ghostface wants to take down. Got to imagine Kirby Reed is going to have some type of information and details on her, right? Maybe even her partner, right? Now, based on the rumors, again, there is supposed to be a death in the opening scene that personally affects and impacts Sidney Prescott. Now, the thought process is it's somebody close to Sidney, somebody that Sidney cares about, or somebody that Sidney would at least feel a type of way about seeing die and losing that, right? But personal could also be like, what if it's her personal information, right? Ghostface hasn't actually actively tracked her down in like 14 plus years by the time this Scream movie comes out. The last time Ghostface really came after her was Scream 4, and even then you can argue that Ghostface wasn't really after her. Jill wasn't, like, Sidney wasn't in the cards. Sidney just came, right? Like, and was like a surprise. Right? And it was like, oh, cool, we get to take out Sidney Prescott now, right? Like, so it was this grand scheme of things. Like, Sidney was hiding like a recluse prior to that. And then she, out of the darkness, stepped out of darkness and stuff like that. So there was no, like, Jill wasn't hunting Sidney. Jill wasn't, in a different area. Like, Sidney came to her, just like Scream 5. Ghostface wasn't after Sidney. Richie and Amber weren't after Sidney. But Dewey died and Sidney wanted revenge. So Sidney came to them. So it's like Ghostface really in reality hasn't gone after Sidney in like 25 plus years, right? Because there's supposed to be a little time jump, right? Is what the rumor going around is. So why would Ghostface come after her now? Now, one of the things that I've thrown out the idea and potential to is, what if Sidney Prescott isn't going by Sidney Prescott, right? Now, some people might look and go, well, Fate, Dewey was on the phone calling her Sidney, calling her Sid, right? Dewey did the same thing in Scream 3 when Sidney was hiding, right? Remember when Sidney was hiding and she was, locked away in a tower far, far away? She was going by the name Laura, right? Dewey was leaving voicemails and calling her and saying, Sid, pick up the phone, Sidney, so again, Dewey calling her Sidney doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? But how has she had all this peace? How has she had all this quiet? Like, all these things, right? Like, it's not, I don't think it's that far-fetched and out of the realm of possibility that she has changed her name and she's not going by Sidney Prescott. She's going by a different name. One, maybe not even to keep herself safe, but her children, right? Like, like the name Sidney Prescott probably comes with, harassment and just media attention and, they want to make movies and all this stuff. Oh, her daughters and all. Like, it's one of those things where, you could really kind of have this setup and this establishment of, okay, the opening scene is personal to Sidney, not because there is a particular death that is personal to Sidney, but it's more so, it's literally her personal information, right? Maybe Kirby knows, Sidney's alias, right? And knows her false identity that the moniker she's going by. And Ghostface is able to track her down. Because, again, like, based on these rumors, take them with a grain of salt. We don't know how real they are, but based on all the rumors, kind of follows the several rumors kind of coming out, right? One, that there's a personal attack that impacts Sidney, that also causes Ghostface to go after Sidney. Well, if Ghostface were to take out not Kirby, because Kirby's supposed to be the character that they're doing a series on. Now, although you could argue, you could do like a prequel series, right? So if Kirby did die in Scream 7, I don't think that means like, oh, they're not doing the series no more. You could do up until that point, or up until Scream 6 even if you wanted to. But let's say, her and, because she's tracking down Ghostface, right? So maybe she has found a Ghostface and figured out who this Ghostface person is, goes in to take out this Ghostface, has her partner, has somebody with her, right? They go in, boom, her partner ends up dying, right? Or maybe her and her partner are at the office or something, and a Ghostface comes in and breaks in and ends up, finding files, taking out, her partner, Kirby's partner. Kirby gets away. Ghostface goes through all the files. Boom, finds Sidney Prescott's files. You also kind of have that kind of tie-in to Scream 3 with Roman. Because remember, Roman was trying to find Sidney and information on Sidney and her whereabouts and stuff like that. Remember, Dewey ended up removing the file, right? He ended up getting rid of it before Roman was able to discover it and was able to find it, right? So maybe you could have kind of like that callback and that tie-in that ties into this upcoming Scream movie to where it's like, okay, Kirby is kind of indirectly responsible for Ghostface going after Sidney, right? And she just, she just trying to survive, not thinking like, oh, I need to grab Sidney's files or anything like that, and just ends up saying, all right, I'm out, right? Like, I could definitely see something like that kind of being put together and playing out. And I think that would actually make a lot of sense, right? And it would also continue to kind of tie in and tell the story of her, as this FBI agent and as this direct tie-in and this, that, and the other, right? Like, I think you can kind of piece together a convincing story, right? Have her and Gale, maybe even Kirby has information on Gale and has some details on Gale and her current whereabouts, right? You got to imagine, is Gale still in that like little villa she had, right? Is she still in that kind of condo, right? Like, especially after Ghostface was able to get in so easily and nearly kill her, right? Which they probably should have. But of course, we find out off camera that the whole movie is sunshines and rainbows and nobody dies in a slasher horror film. Go figure. But I don't know. I like the idea of like, here's a character that we have plans for the future in this like FBI Ghostface style series, right? Ghostface comes. You got to have a tie-in and reason for Sidney's involvement and stuff like that. Because it's just like, why after all these years is this Ghostface just randomly going after Sidney? Right? There's got to be something. There's got to be some type of significance. There's got to be some type of connection. And I don't want it to be the brother's, cousin's, nephew's uncle is after. Right? I hope it's something where it's like, okay, no, like, no, here is Sidney, but she's not going by Sidney, so no one's been able to find her. Like, Ghostface hasn't been able to go after her because, they've been looking for Sidney Prescott. Well, Sidney Prescott, she doesn't exist anymore, and they don't know where she is. And she has a detective who is her husband, right? So you don't think that he knows some people and knows ways to kind of, cover up her identity and stuff and kind of cover her tracks and not be able to find her. Well, Kirby being an FBI agent could have some information on her and be able to know kind of the deets and, could potentially pose an issue for Sidney and Ghostface, right? Like, I think it adds an inherent easy kind of tie-in. Right, here you go, easy, straightforward, boom. Right, but anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of hey, you could tie Kirby in that way. Kirby's got some information. Ghostface shows up, right? She escapes. Maybe she ends up going and warning Sidney. Right? Maybe that's how Sidney finds out. Like, hey, Ghostface, killed my partner, and I'm pretty sure ransacked my place, and your information was there, so Ghostface might be coming here, and maybe Sidney goes and takes her kids and stuff, and puts them in hiding, and then her and Gale go team up, right? Like, you could tie it in fully, like full circle. Boom. Kirby survives. She knows that Ghostface just found Sidney's information. She goes and tells Sidney. Sidney takes Mark and the kids, goes and hides them so they're safe, and then goes and hunts down Ghostface with Gale and Kirby. Boom, there you go. You got the girl power, you got everything you want. Win-win. But anyway, again, how do you feel? Whatever thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. We enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.